What up, YouTube? So, today is actually a really special day. We are going to do an unboxing, and I don't ever do unboxings because, honestly, I don't ever have anything to unbox. Most of the planes that I have these days, they are scratch builds. So, Flight Test has probably been the main person that I go to, or company that I go to, for all my planes, and they're phenomenal. So if you get a chance, check out flighttest.com. Not being sponsored by them, but they're just awesome. Anyways, so what do we have today? The big question. So yes, it is an FMS box, and there's a little damage there. You always want to inspect your packages when they come in the mail, because you know they're coming from a distance, and God knows they could be just beat by the time they get to you. So overall, this package looked pretty decently packaged. Nothing too crazy here, but here we go. The big reveal. Alright guys, so just so you know, I have not touched this box yet. It just came in the mail today. I haven't opened or cut or any of the above. This is it. You get to see the whole 9 yards. So if it's a nightmare in there, guess what? You're gonna see it. So excited. This is some good stuff here, friends. Now, of course, when you're opening boxes, you should always be super careful of where you're cutting, especially if it's a foam plane. Ho ho ho, there it is. Yes. The powerful 1400 millimeter T28D Trojan version 4. So this is the latest version offered by FMS, and this is the 4th version, which has a better engine, has better foam, has shock absorbing retracts. It's awesome. So just a quick background information on this before I actually open this thing completely. I've had one of these before. It was sold to me by my very good friend, and I loved it. It was easily one of my most favorite planes. One, because of its size. It is just a very nice size plane in the air. Great presence. Another, because it's so stable. I had this plane flying without any kind of gyro back in the day on a 4-cell, and I had no problems with it whatsoever. And also, it just has a lot of really cool things built into it that you don't have to buy accessories for, such as lights. There are flaps, and there is retracts. I mean, it's basically everything you would want in a plane. That's just all in one nice package without anything you have to do. And to boot, I got the all-new color scheme, the yellow. So my old plane, which maybe was a version 1, maybe a version 2, was the traditional white and red, as you see here, or orange. And yeah, I loved it. I loved it a lot. But, you know, wear and tear, and I kind of busted it down. And one day, the battery fell out on an inverted flight. Don't ask me how. And I lost it. So, had to get another one. And here I am almost 6-7 years later with now the version 4. So there it all is in yellow. The box looks like it's in great shape. Looks like there's a little bit of a dent here, but if you know anything about these planes, there is more foam packing in this plane than there is plane itself. So I'm not too crazy concerned at this point, but the box itself does look in great shape. And I'm just like super excited to open it up. Now, here is the funny part about FMS. You never know what's inside this box. And yes, I know it says what it features on the box, and yes, you can tell from the internet what you're buying, but here's a clear example. If you can see right there up against my awesome stack of paper towels and toilet paper, there is an FMS Pitts. And that plane, when I opened it up, came with their own proprietary gyro system. Didn't say anything about it on the website, didn't say anything about it in the box, but when you open up the plane, there it was, a gyro system with instructions and all. Also, another story, a really good friend of mine, the one who sold me the first Trojan to me, went ahead and bought his own. And yes, he's got the version 4, and when he opened it up, instead of the 70 amp ESC, lo and behold, there was an 80 amp ESC inside. So I'm super excited to see what FMS has put in this box, because again, you just never know these days what they pack in there. All right, let's get this giant box out of the way, hopefully without killing the cat. Goodbye. Oh, look at that beautiful yellow. That is something else. Very, very nice. So already I could see that this thing is nice and tightly packed. It does look like a corner here may have broke, but honestly, like I said, there is so much foam packing on these things. I'm not even concerned about any of this being damaged whatsoever. So I'm just going to be very careful about cutting my tape at the corners and kind of slowly removing all the parts. Now, from what I remember, my previous version, there was a whole lot of wiring. And it was a big of a pain in the butt because I had to take the wing off to get it in and out of the plane safely. And yeah, it was just a hot mess, kind of like, you know, dealing with the 9 million wires, because like the old or the new version, there was a lot of wiring up in it. Lights, retracts, all of that. But with this, they have simplified a lot of that experience. So you don't have to worry about all of the wires anymore. For example, the wings should be easy with just 2 plugs that go into a control board that's neatly placed inside the fuselage. So I don't have to worry about rewiring or all this crazy wiring every time I want to take my wings off, because it should be nice and neatly bundled together. So that's one of the improvements in this version. I know, I'm being really slow and like just trying not to cut myself into pieces here. There is literally tape all over this box. And that's a good thing. I know it was packed well. Alright, so here's the first wing, and it feels solid. Look at this, guys. They have taped over the wiring in the wing and painted it yellow, so it's nice and flush. It looks like this is nice and sealed with our pre-installed servos and retracts inside. The doors for the boxes, I should say, the servo boxes, are covered and painted. Beautiful wing, nice and silver. We have our wing light there, and there is our bundled light wires all up in there. Beautiful, beautiful. Nice painted. I love the contrasting black on the flaps. That is awesome. Yeah, that looks solid. Here is the instruction manual. Just in case you have no idea what to do, that's always a good place to go, because YouTube these days usually has everything else. All right, here is our horizontal stabilizer with our elevator. Looks like the spar even got a little bit of paint, but that's okay. And I love how it's nice and fused, and this thing is super rigid. I mean, it's like, yeah, there's barely any flex to that. That is great. Yeah, that looks like in great shape. Beautiful paint job on that. All right, let's just keep taking some stuff out of here. So as you can see, guys, FMS takes their time with packing these things. I mean, it is really, really packed well. There is like no movement for anything in this box. Nothing is going to rattle. Nothing is going to shake and get loose. It's very beautiful. Looks like there's a wing spar. That's awesome. Here is the other wing spar, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, in addition to 2 spars that go into the wing itself has sparring within itself. So this thing is like crazy rigid. Looks like we got our propellers. All right, so it is a tri-prop. There are the doublers for the wings, along with all the hardware. And it looks like there are some control rods in there as well. Looks like the accessories for the prop. There is the nose and the spinner, along with all the hardware for that. So that looks great. And here is the body. Look at this beautiful thing. This thing is sick, people. Let's take this thing out nice and slowly. We hung up on something there. Oh yes, there it is. Okay. So kind of got to back it out, I guess. That is a tight fit. Wow, look at that. That is one solid looking plane. That looks great. Everything looks good. There are no nicks in the paint. I got a nice little silver trim there on the vertical, or excuse me, yeah, the vertical stabilizer. There's a light on the top. There is a light on the bottom. There's some nice vent holes. All of this looks beautiful. That is a very torquey motor right there. Yeah, this looks great. All right, let's set that off to the side. Let's look at the other wing. The other wing looks solid. This wing looks like it's in great shape as well. Nice. Doors look solid. The paint, taping of the wiring, the LED lights, servo boxes. So this looks like it's a decal. It looks like there's already a part of it pulling up on the flap, but that's okay. No big deal. If that's the least of it, I'm okay with that. Everything else looks just perfect. All right, so now this is the most exciting part. What is actually on the inside of this thing? So, if I'm not mistaken, this thing just kind of pulls up. And I know it's kind of tricky here. And you definitely want to kind of take your time with it. I'm thinking a little piece of tape on the back to ink it up is pretty good, because you got these like little, I guess, buttons that kind of slot into here. All right, so it looks like there it is. Let's see if we can get a close-up on this guy. So the wiring in here right now is a little discombobulated, but that's okay. Nothing's been hooked up. It doesn't look like there is any... Yep, there is no gyro in here, and that's okay. But there is... I don't know if we can see that. A Predator 80 amp ESC. Okay, so with a 5 amp BEC. So there is a an example of something that was not supposed to be in the box. And it looks like it has some double-sided tape that gave way, but that's okay. We can put a little foam tack on that, and it is beefy. Now, just so you know, this plane, unlike the version that I had, it can take various batteries. So the one that I had was rated for like a 4-cell. The version that I previously had, what I bought for my friend, but this one is actually rated from a 4-cell to a 6-cell. And if you look at this, It says here that this bad boy can do brushless controller 5 to 18S nickel metal hydride or 2 to 6X LiPo, 6S LiPo, excuse me. So yeah, this plane can take 4 to 6 cells, and that's awesome. And I'm super stoked that they gave me a 80 amp ESC and not a 70 amp ESC. So again, just another classic example of getting something in the box that wasn't on the box. And you know what? I'm fine with that. I always love goodies. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this thing together because there really isn't much to it. I just have to lift that vertical stabilizer up and off and then put in my horizontal stabilizer and then bolt it in with 2 bolts that go on the undersides. And then I have that bad boy that's going to go ahead and get wired in and then bolted with the doublers underside of this fuselage. And that's really all there is to it. It's super, super quick. I'm going to leave the prop off with just so that I can fire it up with my receiver. And just so you're wondering, what kind of receiver am I going to put in this bad boy? I have an Admiral receiver from Motion RC, and this is their Stability Plus, which is really, really cool. And I've put this one already in my F-35 jet, and it's rock solid. It really is. I love it. It gets good range. There was no dropouts, no brownouts, thank God. And the gyros were, you could dial them in. So you can control how sensitive or how pitchy you want that to be. And then of course you could turn it on, off. And there's even sort of like a safe button. So if I get in a crazy attitude or lose my orientation, I can quickly flip the switch and get it right back to upright positioning. So that's super, super exciting. All right, I'm gonna put this thing together and I'll show you the after product. All right, guys, so here is my first problem that I've ran into when installing or putting together the plane. So these were not secure, and as you can see, all of this bundling of wire here, it's making it really hard for the plane to seat nice and level on the plane, and I don't want to tighten down the wing and have these wires all pinched up. So ideally, you just want this wire here coming through the top and then into the actual fuselage to plug into that board that I showed you. And the rest of it, it looks like should be kind of bundled up and then probably tucked right in there in that little hole there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my best to kind of split these wings here, and then I'm going to go ahead and I guess foam tack these down, let them set for a little bit, and then I'm going to come back to it and try to reseat this wing into the fuselage. Little foam tack. Something like this. Looks pretty good. I think I'm gonna go with that. Put a little drop of this bad boy on there. Just kind of hold it in place. Not a lot, just a little dot. I'm just gonna kind of push that right down, hold it. what I think I might even do is put a little bit of tape. Right there. Give a little relief. One more little slice over the top. And this will hold everything nice and flush where I want it to be. And that's what it'll look like. Big difference, right? Yeah. There we go. Much cleaner. Alright, so right now I have the wings on. I have the horizontal and vertical stabilizer on. And she is looking sweet. I still need to foam tack back down that 80 amp ESC in there and kind of clean up this wiring and figure out where am I going to put my receiver. Also, I got to bind my receiver, so still trying to figure all that out. More to come. Alright guys, so here's the next issue that I ran into. Just this bird's nest of wiring. I mean, if you're like me, this is just a hot mess. So I'm going to use some black zip ties. I'm going to use some packing tape. I'm going to kind of clean this all up. And I'll get back to you on how this is going to look after it's all cleaned up. Alright guys, so here it is. The finished product. So here we have the FMS Trojan T28 in all of its glory before even flying. So a few things that I found that I actually enjoyed for the build was everything went together actually really quickly. The vertical and horizontal stabilizers were put together with just 4 screws. Something I did notice was that the screws that came with the kit weren't exactly the screws that were in the manual. They were all the same size and they were supposed to be different sized. And the screws that came and locked down the the horizontal stabilizer, which went straight down in this direction, they were able to screw down tight, and almost to a stop. However, the screws that came in from the bottom to lock in the vertical stabilizer, I felt like at one point I started crushing foam. So you can see here, I feel like that wasn't like that before, and it was like that kind of afterwards. So I almost had to stop screwing down, but it never came to a stop. So my thoughts about that are I'm probably gonna have to revisit this, take those screws back out, and just to make sure they don't move on me, put them in with Loctite and kind of just screw them down until I feel like they're pretty good. A few other small things I had to do was the servo arms for the elevator and the rudder had to be adjusted once the servos were centered. And something just as a rule of practice is to always kind of fire up the plane with the prop off to make sure everything is centered and then install your arms. Other than that, everything came together really fast. Also, something I spent time on was cleaning up the inside. So I put a little tape tab here to help me kind of open it because it is kind of hard to grip at the sides and just pull it up. And I went ahead and I really cleaned up the inside here. So you can see what I've done. I took all of the wiring that was kind of just running around and I kind of just like tucked it back in there, and I put like zip ties where I could to kind of just keep them all bundled. I also took the ESC wire and kind of tucked it in alongside here and attached it to my receiver, which is also my gyro in the back there. Likewise, I had the servos for the rudder, or excuse me, for the front landing gear again, running along the side here, and I kind of tape them just under so they kind of just stay nice and neat and out of the way, and they kind of just go right back into that board there. So all of that is really, really clean and open. So now that, you know, when I'm putting my battery in, I don't have to deal with any wires or clutter, and it's all nice and neat. And likewise, because I do have a gyro, I want my wires to not bounce around. So they are kind of bundled back there with another zip tie and just like tucked back. So they're not going to go anywhere at all, which is going to be great so that I don't have any interference with my gyro should I turn it on and need it in like windy conditions. But other than that, this thing is solid. I love it. I love it. Everything is really cool. It looks all scale. I love how easy this part was to put on. This kind of just unscrews and the whole prop assembly comes right off. So like if I'm setting it up at the field, it's easy to take the prop on and off. Likewise, if I need to change the props, because if you see here, the prop distance from the ground when it's straight up and down is actually really close, and I'm on a carpet. Now imagine if I'm in grass that has any type of height. I'm going to be mowing, so you know, you may just need to do some prop swaps, and I am going to try this plane with a 2-bladed prop instead of the 3-bladed just to see if I get any difference in performance. But everything else is solid. I love the paint scheme. I love it with its lights. Right now I don't have it on only because I have 6-cell batteries only, and I don't really intend on flying this on a 6-cell, but again, you can. So I'm waiting for my 4-cell batteries to come in, then I'm going to be able to kind of really fire it up. So I spent a lot of the time kind of more or less cleaning up the interior and setting up my gyro. Again, that's my Admiral Stability Plus that I got from Motion RC. But everything else whipped together within under an hour. So there it is, the FMS T28D Trojan 1400 millimeter, and this is a rock star. I can't wait to mate in it. I'll try to get that on video for you guys. I really hope you like this video, guys. I'm gonna try to post the maiden as soon as possible. Of course, we're in the Northeast, so we're getting a lot of snow right now, and it's just the ground is not favorable. But hopefully this will all be gone soon. We're kind of rolling into March, and yeah, we'll be flying pretty soon. Can't wait. So stay tuned for the maiden. Later, guys.